Were you disappointed in President George W. Bush when he publicly commended Michael Brown, head of FEMA, and said, "Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job," and it took him days to visit the stranded and displaced people and help them out in Katrina?
Well, what was he supposed to say to the head of FEMA? Gee, Brownie, you're doing a lousy job. Come on, really? Mm-hmm. No. Katrina was the most unfortunate circumstance where, my father grew up in Louisiana, and I remember he said, one day the Mississippi River is going to break its banks and those levees aren't going to hold. My father would have been 90 at the time of Katrina. That's how long they lasted, but then they didn't hold. Mm-hmm. And the chaos afterwards was really a matter of unclear jurisdiction between federal and state and local. I remember the president being in the Situation Room, and I talk about this in the book, where you have we have something called posse comitatus, which is a deal made after the Civil War that American troops can never go into an American city, right? Has to be the National Guard or the like. And the president comes in and he says, all right, it's a mess in New Orleans. People are, stranded. I want the military in there to clear it up. And the lawyers say to him, Mr. President, you can't because of posse comitatus. And he says, what in the blazes is posse comitatus, right? So they tell him, you can't send the military in. So he has to rely on the National Guard. Now, the governor doesn't want him to nationalize the National Guard. So yeah, it's a kind of comedy of errors but what I was absolutely angered by was the notion that the President of the United States didn't intervene because somehow it was black people that were involved. That really made me mad. But he was doing what he could as president. The response turned out to be relatively slow. I think the response is better today because Katrina was such a disaster.